I'm Ron Gallagher at Maximum Velocity Physical Therapy, and you're listening to HYPERSPEED Radio. You don't have to live in pain, whether you're running, swimming, playing a team sport, or just everyday fitness. We bridge a gap between medicine and strength and conditioning to help you break through at MVPT. Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of HYPERSPEED Radio. We have decided to spruce this thing up, and we're super stoked to be coming to you live from Sticky Paws Studios, where we have now moved the show. So we kind of took a little, maybe like a week or two break to get this prepared. So pretty stoked to have a new home.
Yeah, and it's conveniently next door to your
an
office.
act of God next door. So pretty stoked about that.
This is great. Yeah. It's an amazing place.
And I think we'll be able to hear you this time.
I think so. I have it right in front of my face. I'm just going to not deviate.
Through the microphone.
I'm paralyzed right here.
Well, Ron Squared Running is happening today. We are discussing the topic of the principles of pacing. If we go back a ways, Ron and I have decided we kind of are building this patient profile, or this runner profile, I should say. Episode 4, we discussed the importance of strength training in runners and how, the way that I describe it to patients is we got to have a chassis that can support the engine. And so the strength training in my mind was how we build the chassis. And then that was episode 4. Actually, that was episode 3, I think. And then episode 4 was base building, the importance of base building. And then episode 7, we discussed pre-run. So we're just kind of like building this athlete training. And today we're going to discuss pacing. As per tradition, I'll do more like track. Today I want to even talk a little bit about triathlon pacing, because triathletes don't realize it's not an open race. It's a little bit different with swim and bike in front. But so we're assuming that this athlete has done some strength training, that their body's on point, nice and healthy. We've been running a while for a base. It depends on the length of the race we're preparing for and this person's injury past and how they've come to this a goal. Mm-hmm. So the one thing that I wanted to talk about is a little bit of the physiology of pacing, because I think runners don't really understand that. It's interesting that most world records in running, I don't know if you know this, is negative split.
Okay.
Negative split or even split. But the even split races are said to be, goal was to negative split, but couldn't hold that pace. Even split set a world record. For those of you that don't know, I would define a negative split as the second half of the effort faster than the first half.
Yeah, and that's actually goal for a lot of my athletes is either flat split, keep the same pace the whole race, depending on the length of the race. Or negative split.
I would think elevation too plays a part in your world.
Everything does, but or perceived effort of your pace. Like if you're pushing, but you're keeping the same pace, so you're exerting more, but it happens that your pace is the same at the end of the race. Perfect. But a properly executed race, if you can negative split it, you're going to be passing people at the end.
Totally.
So
and
it's hard to do, but it's
the elite triathlon world, that's a big feather in your cap, is to be able to negative split and to honestly make up tons and tons of places. In that world where you finish is more important than just finishing. So if you can climb 5 spots in the last half mile and what we would call eat people up, that's a really good feather in your cap. So one thing that's interesting is I think physiology-wise, we got to talk about lactate threshold. I don't know how much you guys talk about lactate threshold, but lactate threshold is roughly about 85% of your max heart rate. And if you are too close to that lactate threshold in the front, you're going to have a problem. And I don't know what the heart rate conversions are for ultra, but I would imagine we don't reach such heart rates
in the long races.
Yeah, long races.
No. I mean, that's the idea, right? Is to keep. I mean, and that's the big topic as far as like what level you can do zones, you can do heart rate, whatever you want to do, but it should be at a pretty low exertion level for a majority of the race.
Right.
And not red line, if at all, but especially at front, first half, first 2/3. You can kind of get away with at the end, but you're going to be kind of hurting. So, but if you're redlining, if you're going into those threshold levels early on, you're going to be burned out, and you're going to have a way positive split then, right? You're going to be walking at the end, depending on the length of the race.
Right.
So so keep and then training. So we'll probably get into it later, but training in that lower level exertion level for the vast majority, and that's the big debate of percentage wise.
Right.
That's super important. So
totally.
Yeah. So
totally. Dovetailing off of that base, really. So in a 10K, the pace you can hold for a 10K without crashing and burning is oftentimes a good indicator of lactate threshold. And one of the things that I see as a physical therapist is, injured runners come and say, I'm trying to run 2:05 on the back of a half iron. Well, that's a half marathon. And my next question is, well, what's your open half marathon time? It's like 2:10. Well, I mean, you can't run a faster time in a triathlon than you can open. So you're going to have to learn how to pace that. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I do with them is a test that I call a VDOT. I have an app, but you can get the equation online. I think it's Jack Daniel's product. I think that's sort of like his life's work is ran thousands and thousands and thousands of people through this test. And based on the test, you can predict within a few minutes what their race times will be.
Okay.
So go to the track. What I usually do is do some drills and strides, a couple of warm-ups, and then it's a 1 mile all-out effort. And based on that 1 mile, we can predict 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon. I think if you did maybe like a 5 mile, maybe that would be better for something longer, but I use the 1 mile. It's kind of quick and easy, and it's proven to be fairly accurate. So if you say, I want to run 2:05 and a half, but your VDOT says you can only run 2:10, you're going to put yourself way past lactate threshold, and you're going to crash. Mm-hmm. So understanding your physiology and placing goals in front of you that are achievable based on your current physiology is essentially how I think people run fast. So if we continue with the chassis versus engine discussion, I really like hill repeats as a beginning way of establishing speed or pacing. Not necessarily at a particular tempo, but just a hard effort. And for my people, I would do quarter mile, start with maybe a 1 mile warm up, a quarter mile up, come down easy, or walk maybe times 4. So maybe 2 miles worth.
Okay.
And then a 1 mile cool down. You guys like hill repeats?
Oh, no, we never like them. No, but
I suppose nobody likes
them. So
them.
it depends on, for me, it depends on where is the athlete at? what's their fitness when you start coaching them, or when you meet them? What's their strength level? That's the huge part for me. Is I like to build that. We talked about this in previous podcasts, but build that strength base.
Right.
With a good strength base, I'm more comfortable doing tempo runs or progression runs or hill repeats or something. I can push their system because I know they have some resiliency, opposed to just, okay, they've been running for 6 months. We'll see what we can do, and and hopefully they don't get injured.
Right.
I'd rather take a longer term approach where build that strength base, and then as they're running, so now you're still getting in that aerobic endurance benefit slowly. Yeah. That's another one. And pacing for me comes in there, getting athletes to run slower than they normally would, like a very comfortable above recovery pace. But social media, their friends, group runs will push them way faster than they need to be.
Oh, man.
And the research is
that's probably a whole nother podcast.
Oh my God. But the research shows that, you should be 85, 90% or more at that slower pace.
Right.
Not ridiculously slow, but like this is slower than this is slower than your marathon pace.
Right.
And the good thing about that is you can get more miles in.
Totally.
You can increase your volume, and volume is the really big predictor of how well you do at these races.
Totally.
So convincing people to go slow so we can slowly increase your volume. Meanwhile, we're going to get a strength base in so we can go slow to increase, to keep that you injury free, keep that kind of that model going, and in the long run, no pun intended, you're going to be better at your sport.
Right.
And I've gone back and forth on VO2 max training and threshold training. It's definitely it depends on the athlete, depends on their goal race, depends on the distance of their goal race. If it's a 100-mile race, they just want to finish as their first one.
Right.
Is it
load them up with data?
I mean, is it that? Yeah. Is it that important?
Right.
Or is having a strong chassis, being super strong, super resilient, being able to run some volume at a low pace, perfect.
Right.
If this is their 10th or 20th 100, or they want to do a fast 100K, then we start sharpening the spear differently.
Totally.
So it depends on the race, the elevation of the race. Is it flat? Is it an elevation? There's so many conditions where like, I think in the track and tri community, those things are fair. I would imagine are fairly, the variability of elevation and it's not. So in ultra running, it can go from the extremes to flat.
Right.
So, and then you have the athlete is so different. I can tell I'm doing this again. I'm trying to, I've been told by Travis to keep my mouth right here.
You're doing just fine. Don't worry about it.
So all depends.
One thing I say all the time is, on your easy days, easy; on your hard days, hard, and nothing in between.
Yeah, I say avoid the middle.
Avoid the middle.
Yeah.
Those are junk miles. I mean, motivated, goal-oriented, injured runners are too much in the middle.
Yeah.
Those junk miles almost don't count.
If you go through Strava, I would say 90% are too fast.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But on your hard days, when it is a day to try to improve your lactate threshold or improve your VO2 max, to introduce some speed, then understanding your VDOT means that it'll give you your lactate threshold pace, it'll give you your easy pace, and then it'll give you proper goal for the race you're trying to do. So if you're open half marathon, it'll tell you exactly what your physiology, the top of your physiology can go. And the training's got to be good to get you to that place. Mm-hmm. If you're running a triathlon, then I would subtract 5%. That's the fastest you can go. So I say, well, you want to run 205 on the back of a half iron, but you're actually in 210 pace or 210 shape. maybe 215, 217 is a better goal for you with this training cycle. And do you have the chassis to run that? Do you have the training to run that? Do you have the nutrition strategy to run that at the back of a triathlon? Huge. To be able to pull that off. And once you can do that, then we go to work on your open half marathon pace to try to get that down so that your half iron pace can follow suit.
No, I think it's a good idea to have that, because you use this VDOT to calculate their edge, and from there you can dial back. You know how to dial back from what value.
It removes the guesswork.
Yeah, that's true.
Removes the guesswork and gives them hard and fast goals. If you
measurable.
You want to define what the junk miles are, that middle ground. On your easy days, this is the fastest I want you to go. But we still negative split that effort. And then on your hard days, these are the range of paces I want you to be, but we still negative split that effort. And if we always negative split from Monday to Sunday, we have a skill base that can negative split. And we hope that on race day that shows up.
Yeah, I think an ultra running, trail running, at least maybe in my biases, it would be good to calculate a good value for every athlete, and probably even using good data like heart rate or something. But they live in different elevations. Do they run on road? Do they run on trail? Do they vary their runs throughout the week? It's hard. Where I think tri and marathon, they're really dialed into pavement level.
Right.
They run usually the same course.
Right.
Plus, I just had, even though I work in kind of a tech field, I hate being out on the trail and looking at your watch, looking at, am I doing this right?
Right.
What's my heart rate?
Right.
Even though there's some really good value to it.
Right. And maybe heart rate variability is a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
To be honest, I see a ton of injured runners who use heart rate.
Interesting.
And it's probably biased because I sit in an injury place. But
everyone I see is injured. This is weird.
Everybody who walks in is hurt.
You have shoes. It must be the shoes.
So I don't love heart rate training. I mean, I've never trained. I should say, I've never thought it was the go-to thing. And, I think people like having data. I think they like having things they can, kind of monitor. You wake up and you scribble down your resting heart rate. You test that. There might be some value there, overtraining, about to be sick. There's some studies that show that you could do that with resting heart rate right when you wake up. But, if you have a stressful job, you have a stressful marriage, you have 20 degrees hotter than it was last week, which sometimes happens to us. All these variability things happen to your heart rate. And if you're not right, Johnny, on the spot with how to manage all of those things, then your heart rate's going to be something that it's not normally. And if you start basing information on that, you start chasing things that aren't there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just one tool of many tools. And I don't love your nose stuck to your watch either, because especially in triathlon
or trail, as you trip and fall and run over the rattlesnake.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started on snakes. We don't normally have race efforts that are as long as race day, we don't normally have training efforts that are as long as race day. And if the run is on the back and your watch dies, now what?
Totally. The reliance on technology on a
Yeah, for sure.
And if it fails, you're in panic mode.
Right. Yeah. And being able to understand the feeling of 9-minute mile pace, 6-minute mile pace, 12-minute mile pace, understanding where you're at without needing your watch, I think is kind of an important tool to have.
No, I like building the athlete's ability to monitor their own feedback.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
So it's more organic. And again, back to trail running versus tri. At least for me, again, anecdotal is I go out there so I can not be at work. I cannot be tethered to a device.
Sure.
So, and then just learning little cues of, okay, one cue I do, if I'm running with a friend, can I have a full conversation with them without breaking, without gasping for air, like just talk, chat, chat, chat. If yes, you're probably going at the right pace.
Right.
But if you're catching your breath every sentence, you're not in there.
The triathletes in the audience head just exploded.
Oh my God. I don't know how many marathon people I've irritated on runs by just chatting them incessantly.
Who's this guy?
Oh my God, that's happened many times.
I'm racing here. Can you not talk to me? Ultra runners are like, hey man,
let's chat. But I think the key is cueing in athletes to find the pace that works for them at that time, and that pace will change. Hopefully, that's the whole idea. Is you will get faster at that same effort.
Right.
To examine those biological cues or something that opposed to technology that will kind of let you go faster. Yeah, because those things like kids and sleep and diet and heat and hydration will always change your heart rate.
Totally.
So you need to be able to kind of to adapt, quickly as you run.
Right.
And it is back to getting out there as consistently at a low pace. You're going to see huge benefits. It's not going to be overnight, but it will definitely come. You could do no just one pace for 2 years. Do that super low exertion pace, and you're going to do pretty well at these longer events. You might not podium, you might not, but you're going to, with a good strength base, you probably won't get injured.
Right.
You won't be exhausted all the time. And you'll see the slow progression and how you'll get faster at the same level.
Right.
And those longer events, as you gain volume, will become, quote unquote, easier.
Right. Patience is a virtue.
Yeah. But that's not most people. So
no.
you need to give them something to bang their head against.
They want to chew on something. Yeah, for sure. So in track, they talk a lot about how, they'll do more interval stuff in track. They'll do more like faster than race pace, faster than lactate threshold pace. For an 800 girl, they might do like repeat 200s, which is a really hard workout, 12 200s or something. And then very fixed rest, very fixed paces, and try to step them down to a certain number. So it's interesting to hear different coaches' style, like with the length of a race, how they construct workouts that drive pace.
To drive the increase in pace,
or just to build race pace.
Okay, race pace.
So essentially, in the track world, they're trying to make race pace feel easy,
mm-hmm.
perceived as easy.
Mm-hmm.
5K, 10K on a track, it's just 400, 400, 400, 400, and like, how do you pace those 400s?
That's madness.
Yeah, and what's cool about those events is there's also race tactics. Get to the front and slow down, get to the front and take off, which doesn't happen in a whole lot of other events. But race tactics, especially in a race like the 800, is almost more important than your fitness. So that was one of the really cool things about working underneath a couple of Olympians, is to hear their philosophy on how to run that race and how to use tactics as a way of driving your. So basically, they structure practice to drive a race tactic, and then build those paces into practice. So the whole enchilada on running fast was built into each hard effort and then discussed as part of the race effort.
Okay.
Which is a really interesting strategy to go about. And, the Boston qualifier athletes that I've trained, you're out there by yourself. You're not racing anyone. You're racing against your fitness. And did we build enough of the chassis? Did we do enough base? Did we build in some fast finishes? Because on a road marathon, that last 10K from 20 to 26 is where push comes to shove.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's where that's when the goal is reached, is in that last 10K. And, lactate threshold at mile 18, gonna have a problem.
True. No, I was trying to think of a 100-mile equivalent, and it's always nice to kind of negative split or have a fast finish. But I was thinking, is it more mental or is it more in your system? Is it available? I think it's one of those things where you can see the finish in your head, and you're like, okay, you're more excited just to get this done.
Right.
Right. Plus, I think at the end you see a lot of people slowing down, and picking them off is a game you can play at the end to kind of help motivate you.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a different tactic. I mean, I approach the longer race development differently, as far as, again, if you just did the same easy pace, increased volume slowly, you're gonna perform well. That's one tactic, and as you have strength underneath it, they're gonna do really well, and they're gonna see progression. But that's not the way people want to do it. So they want to have some speed work, which is completely understandable.
Right.
So I start integrating in what we talked about. Our strides would be little 10 to 30 second kind of under sprints at the end of an easy run.
Bursts,
or surges in the middle of a 60-minute run. You do 10, 30-second bursts. It could be from this tree to that tree, or that light pole to that.
Right.
So you're teaching your body, like, hey, this is coming. Get those the nervous system ready, get the muscles ready. This you can give a little bit of stimulus without taxing the system too much.
Right.
And once they're comfortable with that, we can do progressions. We can add some faster tempo, slightly fast, and that's the whole art of it, the slightly faster finishes at the end. So you can do a 10-mile run with the last 2 miles, maybe 30 seconds a mile faster, a minute, a mile faster.
Right.
Just a little bit to kind of teach them, and as we do that, you're developing these systems, but I also want them to feel how it is to finish fast. So all these long runs and all these kind of adding speed into the training. Speed, and again, speed could be, the vast majority of their long runs should be at that slow pace. It could be in the middle where we add some 3 by 5 minute threshold drills.
Right.
And then you finish super slow. You could have the last third of it finish fast, and that could be just threshold level, below threshold level, just a little bit faster. But teaching them that you can push at the end and not go slow at the end. Go slow at first and then finish fast.
Right.
And so every long run to me is a practice race.
Totally.
And it's practice for fueling, hydration.
Nutrition.
That's a monster.
Totally. Hydration.
And feeling the effects.
Which I feel
of
like that podcast is coming.
Yeah, I'm still amazed. I'm still amazed that even experienced athletes, if I ask them how many calories do you eat an hour, about, have you calculated it out? I have no idea.
No idea. How much water should you drink an hour?
No.
No.
Yeah. So it's
I drink when I'm thirsty.
Yeah.
In your intro.
Yeah, it's probably, or eat when I'm hungry.
Yeah. You missed your window, buddy.
Yeah. So I and that's another podcast, because I add.
Maybe that's what we do next.
I combine pacing with nutrition. So
it has to go hand in hand.
So if you keep your pace easy at first, and maybe negative split or exert more effort to keep your pace at the end, but that first part of that race is easy. Your body's not going crazy. It's not redlining. You can now take in food, water. So now you're not going negative in water, negative in calories.
Right.
So now you have this huge base throughout the race.
Right.
And now
Makes
you can call
sense.
upon it to finish well, opposed to I see people straight into negative calories, straight into negative hydration, and then they try to go fast,
Right.
and then they start puking or they start dying. So
Right.
The pace and nutrition
deal.
plan goes hand in hand.
Totally. Do you guys the long race is two long runs back to back, maybe a 20 and a 10 or something on a Saturday and a Sunday. Do you ever play with that second day tempo? I always wonder about that. You just
funny,
make
just
that
thought of
kind
that.
of a recovery, just get some miles, time on feet type thing, or
It's
do you actually do some tempo play on that second day?
So it depends. So the answer is always going to be depends.
Right.
So it depends on the athlete. If it's a newer athlete just kind of getting into that longer distance realm or getting into the, hey, we're going to increase your volume and put some of it in the weekend, side. I like giving them a big chunk on a Saturday, say, with maybe a fast finish at the end, and then depending on the athlete, just the next day, just trot it out,
Survive it.
just survive it,
Right.
and they're surprised how well they feel after like the third or fourth mile.
Yeah.
Their system gets back into it, like, oh, I can do this,
Right.
and it teaches them how to recover after a hard effort. So after that big Saturday chunk, make sure you recover well, nutrition, hydration. So when you wake up, you're not gonna feel the best, but your body has the material to go out there and do some work.
The confidence and the belief that your body's going to rise to the occasion.
And that's the biggest part is confidence. Like,
Totally.
I just did 40 miles or 35 miles in this.
How does a human run 100 miles?
Yeah,
You have to talk your body into it.
yeah. Did you feel poorly when you started this run? Yes. Did you finish? Yes.
Yeah.
And you felt pretty good afterwards, didn't you?
And
Yes.
there's a middle time there where you're running. And
Yeah.
You're just running.
Yeah.
You're not slogging and carrying on, but your protective mechanism built into your brain that says, I don't know, man, maybe this is bad for you. Once you finally quiet that voice, your body's just doing what you tell it to do.
Yeah, I think that's
Pretty cool.
the biggest thing when they ask, I'm not sure if I can do, or, this is going to be hard, or I'm not sure if I can finish this. I'm like, yeah, that's the whole point. You're here to challenge yourself, and you might not, but you're going to learn, even if you did not finish, you're not going to DNF this race, you're not going to finish this race.
Yeah.
How much did you come away with? How much knowledge did you come away with? I'm sure it's, and how much motivation to train for the next one.
Right. I always call it building courage. Courage is doing something because you're afraid.
Yeah,
And
it's the fun.
Totally. That's the only way to run 100 miles.
Yeah, if you're not scared, then
Yeah. That's
Why
the
do
whole
it?
point.
Yeah.
You're practicing overcoming your doubts. And that second day is all about doing that.
yeah.
But I was just wondering if there was any.
It depends on the person. Sometimes I'll put a little challenge in there to kind of to prod them, we'll say, because they need a little. They can handle the work. So it's a kind of a advanced confidence builder. But for a majority of athletes, it's just survive and feel that you did it, and you don't feel horrible.
Right.
And that's after weeks of training. So as you approach a race, you're going to be more recovered. You're going to be more mentally ready for it. They can start seeing that path to finishing the longer runs.
Have you ever put a ultra runner on a track? Did a track workout?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does a track workout for an ultra runner look like? Just like generally, it depends. I know, but
Yeah.
but
See,
what type of workout would you think?
So my track is either it's convenient, it's cold, it says indoor track.
Oh,
There's some sort of a reason for going there. So I do a very simple like speed work is like 15 minutes. So 15 minutes cumulative in a session. So it could be 3 5-minute speed work,
Right.
and then rest in between. It could be
So 15 minutes total of fast running.
Yeah, it could be 15 1 minute. It could be 3, that stuff.
My triathletes in the audience just had exploded again.
Because that's too little, or
That's way too little.
well, again, how much speed do you need for 100 mile?
You need to feed me.
Yeah,
15 minutes will not feed me.
Yeah. Well, again, it's race distance and athlete level. Like
Right.
at 100
That
miler,
makes sense, actually.
at 100 miler, depending on the course, it's important, but not that important.
Right. Right.
Again, going back to, I'd rather almost have an athlete to just run the same speed, that super slow speed,
Right.
super slow speed, but that level, zone 2, whatever you want to put it.
Yeah.
At a higher volume, you're probably going to do better and stay injury free, opposed to a person who really wants to do those hill repeats every week or twice a week. And
Right.
but again, it's engagement too. You have to kind of market your, like if you need to keep an athlete engaged and they're only engaged if they think they're doing work, then you need to give them some work.
Right.
If it's like, I'm not going to stay in the sport if I just run the same speed every day.
Right.
Of
Ugh,
course,
so
even though
boring.
we're kind of doing that.
Right. Well, your A race effort is that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
if you gave an 800-meter runner that, I mean,
Of course.
they're going to get smoked.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, so that that's the whole goal. That's the art, I think, of coaching is, knowing your athlete, knowing what drives them. Because we've had some conversations about like 18 Ironman, and this is my 10th 100 miler, and now I want to go sub 24. Okay, well, how do you take this 27, 28 hour 100 miler? How do we get them to go under 24 hours? What's it definitely depends on them, but what types of things do you see prior to them hiring you? What kind of mistakes are they making?
A lot of the time would be even race day tactics. I mean, aid station time. I mean, do you have crew? Do you have pacers? Do you have, do you have a system of getting through and keep running?
Can I tell a story of the time I was at an aid station with Ron? With Ron Hammett. You know how like you go to a concert and you see a guy playing a guitar and you can just look at him and you know that this guy's like, this is his place, right? He's doing his thing. Well, that's what I saw with Ron at the aid station at Tusher's. He was like, hey, man, you want to go hang out with me at the aid station? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to hang out by myself. I think it'd be fun to hang out with Ron, maybe pick his brain a little bit. And then we get there, and Ron's like whole aid station personality kicks on. He's like running around like such a good helper. And I was like, oh shit, I need to not stand here and watch. I mean, if he's gonna be Mr. Helper, I got to jump in. So it ended up making the day go so much faster, and the time at aid station is kind of a big deal.
Oh, huge. Yeah, because plus you go in there, and that's why I like helping, because you're in a brain fog. Like you're halfway panicked, halfway tired, and you're not making good decisions. It's like getting people like...
And you seem like you had a list of important things, and each, you kind of asked them some questions, and they're like, oh, yeah.
Give me your trash, first thing. Give me your trash.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting them in and out. So just race day tactics, I think you could shave off, my God, an hour at a bat. Oh my God. Like you, if there's 10 aid stations in a 100 miler, there's usually more, and you spend 10 minutes.
Right.
That's okay. What if you did 5 minutes right there? Boom.
Right.
You knocked out some time.
Right. That's insane. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. It's not like other sports, because you can just sit there and especially if you sit down
and nobody's watching you really. I mean, if you don't
it's all you.
If you don't have a crew around you, nobody's really paying attention to that.
Yeah. And then going back into this discussion would be pacing. So if you're going out too fast on a longer run, on a longer race, and then at mile X, I'm just do 100 miles just because it's easy. At mile 45, you go into an aid station and you're just, I feel sick. I got to sit down, and now it's a half hour.
Oh, man.
it's 40 minutes because you're just dehydrated or something went wrong. So it's race day execution.
It's harder than you thought it was.
Yeah, and it's pacing. So it's back to pacing. So you could have the same fitness level, dial in your pacing, and get a good fueling and hydration plan. Your fitness level is the same, and go to and do it again, and you're going to do markedly better. I mean, it's going to be it could be hours of time shaved off.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then just now, okay, let's add on fitness. Okay, let's get some time and build some volume, build some strength, because maybe they're starting to wobble at mile 70. It's taking them off their stride because they're something's weak, something's given away.
Right.
So now it's just building strength, race day execution, and you're doing races faster. And now we're still not hitting fitness. So the fitness part is the easy one, I think. It's really thinking through, especially race day, because you have to make decisions on the fly really fast.
Yeah.
And one mistake can cost you a lot of time.
When I decided that I wanted to learn about elite track, I was amazed at how the X's and O's of actually the workouts on the track don't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is...
Why are you hugging and kissing on the track? You said X's and O's.
Oh, X's and O's. So cute. But like, should we run 200? Should we run 400? It doesn't matter. What matters is, are these athletes confident? Are these athletes prepared? And 200s, 400s, like, you can make an argument either way, and it doesn't actually matter. The night before, the day before, 2 days before, the week of, how's the semester going with school? Like, there's a million factors that lead to how these girls run, and the men too. But ultimately, is instilling confidence is just as important as, how many 200s did you run?
Totally.
Or, did I have 5 long runs, and did I get to my 25 and 20? And, whatever, however you define your readiness for a 100-miler. But it really comes down to confidence and believing in your training, I think, trusting your body.
But tagging on that, even prior to race day, like one thing I tell athletes is write your mother or call your mom. So it's pay your bills. So especially in the longer races, those little demons will creep into your head as far as like work things. Or I didn't pay this, or I didn't call my mom. Like I need to talk to you. You'll start, your mind will try to twist your mood and kind of bring you down sometimes.
Right.
So it's taking that environment away, like pay your bills, clean your house, call everybody you need to call, get your work done at work. So now when you hit race day, no stress. There's nothing. Right. There's no fertile ground for these little
clean slate.
Yeah. So now it's just race. Have your stuff packed, have your drop bags done.
Right.
It's just clearing your mind.
Right.
So it's not that franticness
of
going into a race. And that's again back to what makes you a faster runner is just those little things.
I just had an idea. Maybe the next podcast is all the things about a race that's not actually racing. Because nutrition could be in there, hydration could be in there, what you eat the night before, how you travel.
Don't have Thai food the night before,
Level
which I've
6.
Done. Yeah.
Don't get level 6. How about if you give me 3 takeaways from today? If you have an ultra runner's ear, you want 3 takeaways on pacing, what would you say?
So define your level 2, right? So whatever your level 2 is, that endurance level, whatever, very comfortable above a recovery jog pace. Find that for yourself. And again, I define it as you can talk to your friend forever, just chat. Do 90+% of your runs in that zone. And again, depends on who you are, what race you're going for.
Right.
But I would say that's a good number, 90. Meanwhile, get some strength in there. So with most of your runs slow and you're getting stronger, you're gonna be at a place where you can That's another thing. You can be at a place where you can say you have tushers, you have just this huge climbing, high elevation race coming up. If you have a strong base, if you have a lot of your miles and getting more and more miles at a low pace, you're at a better starting point to train for these more challenging races, opposed to always taxing yourself. So you're never really you're always kind of in a race training mode, even though you don't have a race coming up. So keeping everything kind of about getting that long view of training in there, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, this stuff is going to really pay off because your basis can be just so solid. So I mean, I'm not even sure I can have two other. It's really keeping your pace for majority of your training runs at that zone 2, lower than you think.
I think there's a million runners out there who need to hear that message. So I think that's a really, really strong message. It's the hardest. And with that, maybe the sub thought of that is when you start adding speed into their training, like that fast finishes or speed play, I tell them, like, if you can keep your majority of your runs slow, when that day comes, when Saturday you have a tempo run, you're going to be able to wring out the value of that workout more than if the runs during that week were too fast. So you're going to hit that Saturday run, you're not going to be fully recovered, and you're not going to execute that quality workout as well as you could, and you're not going to get the value out of it. The junk miles zap some of that value.
So you're mushing everything in the middle. Right. So you can keep everything low, so you can do some high quality workout. That's another way.
Don't take my takeaway away.
Oh. But yeah, that's basically it.
My takeaways are easy on your easy days, hard on your hard days, and when you understand your hard days, you don't guess. So something like a VDOT or having an experienced coach will help you understand what pace you should be running. And then obviously as a physical therapist who sometimes coaches, make sure that you have the range of motion and strength and the biomechanics to pull off faster programming. Range of motion and strength, biomechanics matter with how many miles you're running, how fast are you running these miles, and if you can answer all those questions, I think you're probably in a good spot. So the last thing we normally ask is, what are you listening to these days?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I have a friend, Nick. He gave me I don't know. We're at a training run. He was playing Slipknot. So I'm like, I'll look into this band. Slipknot, yeah. So that's my last week is
been Slipknot.
It's an interesting band.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like them. They're a good palate cleanser from the other music I was listening to. So these kind of cleanse, just wipe the slate clean.
Yeah. What do you think about Mudvayne coming back?
And that's funny. That's the other band he said I need to look at. So that's my next one.
Yeah, get back into Mudvayne.
I've never been in Mudvayne.
Oh, really?
No.
I would expect you to be halfway a Mudvayne guy.
I'm still exploring. Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing. It's like 90s, right? 2000s Mudvayne.
I have no idea.
No idea? Mm-hmm. Really? Man, I think that's in your wheelhouse.
Might be. Yeah, we'll see.
Between Tool and Pussifer and all that, Mudvayne doesn't show up?
It shows up. I'm sure I know I'm sure I know their music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just like Slipknot. I'm like, I know that song. I know that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I had something on in the clinic the other day, and a Slipknot song came on, and I was like trying to think clinically, and all of a sudden my thoughts are like 5,000% faster. I was like, look, I got to change this.
Oh, I like
it's
like
just
that.
too much.
Yeah, that music I could sleep on.
So is it possible to listen to Slipknot and run in zone 2?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can sleep on that high, like that heavy metal, I go to sleep on. Even my daughter now, I'll put it on in the car and she'll fall asleep consistently when we're driving back from school. It's weird. I'm like, and my wife totally not that way.
Yeah.
But it's soothing. I think it calms everything else down, so I can think about
a 30 plus 100 miler says Slipknot is soothing.
It's soothing.
I don't know about that. I ran across Dire Straits and been kind of doing a deeper dive on Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. I don't know if you know, that dude's a ridiculously good guitarist. And so I just been like looking at some B-sides of Dire Straits lately.
Yeah.
Just try to find this guy wailing on a guitar.
I love doing that. It's kind of went down a rabbit hole of music. And
I mean, I was like mid-'80s when Dire Straits was kind of a big deal. You know, early 80s, I think, probably when
that one song,
the Money for Nothing video was all over MTV.
Yeah.
So they kind of, I think, get this reputation as being super commercial for that. But Mark Knopfler tours the world and draws guitar enthusiasts from all over. It's kind of a big deal in the guitar world. And I see why, because there's some really good stuff that nobody's probably ever heard.
Maybe they could open
or maybe I'm just late to the game.
Maybe they can open up for a Slipknot.
Oh, man. I don't think those
two crowds.
I think there'll be violence.
Well, yeah.
I think the Slipknot folks will have a problem with that.
Yeah. I've seen their videos. They're out there. I love it.
All right. I think I said episode 9.
I think so.
Episode 9, Hyperspeed Radio with Ron Squared. I'd like to thank Sticky Paws Studios for an amazing home. Maybe someday we'll do some like behind the scenes stuff around here, because I think more people need to know this place is here. Very innovative company, taking advantage of media and stuff. And I think it's very cool little spot, and I'm so thankful they moved in next door. Apologize for the noise.
The noisy neighbors.
We're the noisy neighbors. Spartan training apparently on Saturdays is a little loud.
Gotcha.
So we'll tone it down.
They're the Slipknot of athletes.
Exactly. We're the Slipknot of the Sunset Business Complex. So we'll try to keep it down. But don't forget, trust your body and believe in your training. And Sundog racing coach Ron Hammett is here if you want to move from these weenie distances into long distances. And if you need some physical therapy, just let Maximum Velocity know. We'll be glad to hook it up.
Yeah, go to sundogrunning.com and check us out.
Right on. Well, have a great day.
You too.
Keep it up, man.
All right. Cheers.
All right.